What's up, guys? We're just over a week out now from Lomachenko's return to boxing since uh, being over in Ukraine, defending his country. So next weekend we're in for a real treat, seeing Lomachenko return to the ring, and I like the opponent they've picked as his comeback. I think it's a pretty decent comeback fight. I think stylistically it's a good opponent as well. If you're trying to, prepare yourself to fight the likes of Devin Haney, who has all the belts in the division, I think it's a good pick based off styles, because from what I've seen of Jamaine Ortiz, he looks to be a pretty decent boxer. Um, I wouldn't say there's anything special about him, but he looks to be a pretty well-rounded, decent boxer. Got pretty good legs and movement. Pretty good jab. Can box on the outside and the inside a bit. Seen that he can do a bit of counter punching as well. He looks like a pretty solid all-round fighter, but he hasn't been in there against a true master boxer like Lomachenko. He's been in, I would say, his last fight was probably his best opponent, or at least his most well-known opponent, against Jamal Herring, who is a former, WBO world champ. So that's a decent level of competition that fight was taking place at. However, it's not going to be at the same level as that of a Lomachenko, who is, one of the pound-for-pound best in the sport, and has been pretty much on a tear since losing to Teofimo Lopez. He's been brutalizing his opponents and then really beating them up bad. So I'm looking forward to this fight. Like I say, stylistically, I think it's a good preparation fight to get him, ready to fight Devin Haney in his next fight, if Haney stays at 135. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Jamaine Ortiz has, all the physical advantages going into the fight. He's the bigger, taller guy. He has a longer reach. And I think his only chance in this fight is probably going to be to try and utilize his physical advantages. I don't think he's going to be able to really do that, because Lomachenko, is able to control distance so well, and remain defensively responsible while attacking you, using feints and angles, changing levels. I don't think it'll be, as simple for Jamaine Ortiz to just go in there and use his physical advantages, because I do think Lomachenko is going to, put doubt in his mind and, make him hesitant in there and make him very gun-shy, as he usually does with all his opponents. But yeah, some of the techniques I would recommend Ortiz to do. Ortiz is also a switch hitter, so that's interesting. I think he mostly fights right-handed, but he boxes pretty much at a similar level in both stances, so he can definitely switch hit. And in this fight, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see whether he boxes majority of the fight in orthodox or southpaw, and whether that makes a difference in terms of in which stance he takes more damage or has more success in which stance. I think Lomachenko is obviously more used to fighting against orthodox fighters. He's practically been doing that his whole career. So he's truly a master of using his footwork to establish the outside angle, putting himself in the blind spot, being able to attack from behind your shoulder in that T position. So I think if I was Jamaine Ortiz, I'd probably look to box mostly in southpaw, and I'd switch it up to try and give Loma decent looks. But I think you're probably going to want to box most of the fight in southpaw, because I think Lomachenko is more used to fighting against orthodox fighters. Now, he's unbeaten against southpaws as well, but obviously he hasn't faced as many southpaws. But he's fought some good ones like Rigo and Gary Russell, and he dealt with them, with no problem. But yeah, like I say, if I was Jamaine Ortiz in this fight, I'd probably try and box mostly southpaw, and I'd look to try and get Lomachenko's timing down and try and time him, which is not easy with Lomachenko using all his level changes and different foot feints and head feints, and then coming in off angles. It's not easy to catch him and time him coming in. But Lomachenko, being the smaller guy, he does have to take risks and come in, putting him at risk, while he's punching. If you punch with him, or if you're able to time him and catch him, you do have a puncher's chance in this fight if you're Jamaine Ortiz. Just not sure that he's that big of a puncher that he'll be able to take Lomachenko out, but that's something that he's got going for him. Other than that, if I'm Jamaine Ortiz, I'm going to look to try and maybe punch at Loma's chest, because Loma has superb head movement and reflexes, and if he's able to slip one of your shots, this will help him, attack off an angle, or establish that lead foot dominance and get through behind your shoulder and turn you into a punching bag. So you got to be very careful when punching at Lomachenko, because you're actually creating opportunities for him to attack off of. Also, the other theory is, if you're in that orthodox stance, is to jab at Lomachenko's lead hand to try and cut the angle off on him so that he can't slip outside your jab and, establish that position that he's looking to attack off of. So those are some of the strategies Jamaine Ortiz can use. Other than that, he can just try and, like I say, be rough and use his physical advantages. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that, or it's going to be easy to do that at all, because Lomachenko, he's a master boxer on the inside and outside. His inside game is sick. I think his inside game's really underrated. The way he's able to, shorten up his shots on the inside and use his superior hand speed, while also using, techniques that are very rarely seen in the sport of boxing, like block removal and guard manipulation. He's one of the very few fighters that utilizes both these techniques, especially at the level and the amount that he uses them at. You don't see many other fighters using block removal and guard manipulation. Also, his control on the inside, the way he'll frame fighters and pin their gloves to them so that they can't respond while he attacks with his free hand. It's quite a sight to behold, actually. You don't see this much, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Lomachenko's comeback. Also, he's an elite body puncher on the inside, and extremely hard to tie up on the inside, and he can force you to fight at paces you're really not capable of fighting at or comfortable at fighting at. So Lomachenko is, he's a nightmare to have to face in the ring. So I think it's going to be a really hard night's work for Jamaine Ortiz, and I think Loma will probably pick up the stoppage in this fight, or I'd lean towards him picking up a late stoppage in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Jamaine makes it the distance, but I would be leaning towards probably a late stoppage in this fight for Lomachenko, because he's one of the best attacking fighters in the sport at the moment. The way, he's able to utilize and due to him being a naturally attacking fighter that has, probably the advantage in this fight on both the inside and outside ranges here in this fight against Jamaine Ortiz, as well as also having the superior boxing IQ and understanding of boxing as a whole, I think Lomachenko should be able to get the stoppage in this fight and look impressive, thus building up the hype for the big fight against Devin Haney for all the belts at lightweight. At least, that's what I'm hoping that we see, next after this fight. If Lomachenko looks the way I'm expecting him to look in his comeback fight against Jamaine Ortiz, I expect Lomachenko to carry on, the path of destruction he's been on since losing the belts to Teofimo Lopez. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this fight in the comments section below, and thanks for listening, guys. Also, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed and you're still listening. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it, and talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.